Hello, everyone. So, to change the tenor of our conversations, I thought I'll bring in a young entrepreneur today to our discussions. I have on the call with me today Hari. Hello, Hari.
Hi, Ringo. How are you?
Very good.
So
And without further ado, I'm going to request Hari to introduce himself and his journey as a young, very young entrepreneur.
yeah, so thank you for having me on the show. I think what the EL Forum is doing is paramount to making sure that the entrepreneurs of my generation or those who don't even know they're entrepreneurs yet, um, it is vital for them to realize that they can do or participate in entrepreneurship and not just take on the traditional path of going through 4 years of college and then going to work in some corporate environment. So
So, tell me
I,
something about your background and where you come from and how did you end up becoming an entrepreneur?
yeah, so I am actually I'm the co-founder and CTO of AERSYS Inc. AERSYS's mission is to take high-end automation and available to Amazon and Walmart and those big companies, taking that automation and making sure it's available for everybody to use, any size business. To that end, we're building a modular parcel transfer system that can interface with both um, people, drones, autonomous vehicles, things like that. Um, so again,
Excellent.
the mission is to take all this high-end magical sounding stuff and making sure that the ordinary people can benefit from it. So about me, I'm a recent mechanical and aerospace engineering graduate from Rutgers, but I started
Okay.
AirSys with a classmate in 2018 when like we were just second year students then.
Okay.
Before founding the company, we were just discussing cool sounding ideas on the trip back, the drive back from a robotics competition. At the time, I didn't have entrepreneurship in my sights. I was still, what, second year student, halfway through my college career, and then I would go on to a corporate job, right? So I didn't have the entrepreneurship idea in my mind until I started reading articles about how drone deliveries were a pipe dream because the infrastructure to support it didn't exist. Now, our mission and vision today is a little different than before, but that reading about people's problems like that, what people are complaining about, what are their pain points, that made me think. On that drive back, we were talking about a drone battery swap tower. I mean, that's one of the solutions to one of the problems that those articles kept posing. And so, as an engineer, that technology on the technology side, right? The infrastructure. Okay, what do you need to support drones? Okay, battery swap, maintenance, things like that. The technology exists. It's pretty easy to put easy to put the technology together. So why didn't the infrastructure exist? Why are those articles still coming out saying no, it's never going to happen because of this, and this? So that's the question that me and my business partner sought to answer. It's, why doesn't this exist already? People have this problem clearly, and the solution is very clear to us. So naturally, by in trying to solve that problem, both technologically and practically from a not even from an economics point of view, but from will this solution we come up with actually solve their issue? Talking to people. In that process, I naturally became an entrepreneur, someone who
Excellent.
wanted to create something to solve someone else's problem, right? Not to make money, not to just found a business and say I have a business, but it's someone who wanted to create something to solve someone else's problem. Um, and so that's how I started, and that's how I became an entrepreneur. I didn't know I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to be a problem solver. But solving people's problems is better than, to me, is more powerful than just solving a technological problem, which I still love
Excellent.
doing, but there's only so much
Excellent.
that can go.
Very, very, very inspiring. And I'm hoping that people of your generation and age group are listening, and hopefully, some of them get inspired. And who knows, they might want to do something like you. Because I truly believe entrepreneurship is the future of any economy. It is without entrepreneurship and innovation, no economy can grow. Is my belief.
Yeah.
So, on that, what is your view, and what do you think is entrepreneurship? What is your definition of entrepreneurship?
So, to many, when they first hear entrepreneur, they think business person, right? They think someone who wants to make money, someone who starts a franchise. Anyone will call themselves an entrepreneur. And while I won't say that that's wrong or that's false, I'll say that I understand that an entrepreneur is much like an engineer or an artist, and that they create a reality that does not yet exist for the majority of people,
It's a beautiful
right?
answer. Okay.
So an engineer solves problems in the physical realm, while an entrepreneur solves problems in the people realm, right? The practical realm, if you will. They may elect to use technology or not, but at the core of their operation is problem solving. So in that vein, entrepreneurship to me is taking the risk, taking the time, spending the money, all of that, right? Taking that massive amounts of risk to listen to people's problems and having the confidence to believe that you're the one to solve them. You as the entrepreneur can engage in entrepreneurship, which is taking the risk and then having the confidence to believe that you can solve people's problems. To me, just to extend the question a little more, is like a good entrepreneur takes technology or other innovations that seem like magic to most people and enable those people to reap the benefits even if they don't fully understand it, right? It's reducing the barrier to entry for anything. I mean, just one quick case here. I mean, I have one of those smart cleaning robots that I was aware of when I was young. What, in 2003, 2004, I was like 6, 7 years old, and I just go to Home Depot and see these really expensive iRobot cleaning things, right? And now today you see everyone's got them. You can get them for much cheaper than they were before. Sure, the technology existed, but people found the way to take that technology and let almost anybody, right, use it. At least a much larger group of people use it. And I don't believe that they did it just because they wanted to make money. Well, while that might be true, the only way to really democratize something or any technology like that is you have to care about people's problems and care about solving them enough. If you only cared about money, then they would have just all the other robo vacuum companies would have just made the same models and sold to the same high rich people clientele, right? So to reiterate, good entrepreneurs take the technology that looks like magic to most people and enables those people to reap the benefits even if they do not understand it or know how to leverage it directly.
Excellent. Very, very different answer. I have not heard this before, Hari. That is a really nice and different approach to entrepreneurship. Uh, so, what is your view on being an entrepreneurial leader? You're now the CTO, so you are leading your own team at some level. What is your um, what is your definition, or what is your understanding of being an entrepreneurial leader?
So, to me, an entrepreneurial leader, so entrepreneurial is a characteristic that can be tacked onto leader, right? I mean, there's leaders everywhere. There's leaders in politics, there's leaders in school clubs, there's leaders even in the home, right? You may have head of households, you may have multiple head of households. It doesn't really matter. A leader is just somebody who can have some goal that they've even either told or they came up with a goal, and they can somehow push a group of people to accomplishment. But that doesn't automatically make them an entrepreneurial leader. You don't know how they accomplished or how they will accomplish that goal. They may, crack the whip, while sitting in the chariot, saying, "Yeah, you guys do this. You have to meet this deadline by this time," without even thinking about or talking to the people that they're leading. Right now, good leaders may do that. But what makes a leader entrepreneurial is, how I talked about problem solving just initially. Those entrepreneurial leaders will take the teams that they have and listen to their problems and even create solutions for them, even if it's an internal solution, even if it's something that'll never see the light of day in a business context. If in the end of the day it makes your employees' lives easier, to make their job easier, and those solutions incorporate their feedback because they're the ones doing the job, right? If you listen to them and create solutions for your team members, that makes you an entrepreneurial leader. Because sure, you're not going to be selling that solution down the line. Sure, you might find a way to monetize it because some investor thinks, oh, that's great. But at the core of it is you're solving even your own members' problems, right? And that's what makes a leader entrepreneurial. They solve people's problems there's left and right, and they're able to do it effectively, and they're able to incorporate members, right? The people who they're leading, their feedback into it instead of just saying, just do this, just do that, right? Or just meet these metrics. That's
Excellent.
that's what makes it a leader entrepreneurial to me.
And in your journey of running your own setup for 3 years now, what are the challenges you have faced? What have you learned as an entrepreneur? What challenges have you faced?
One of the biggest challenges, I mean, it kind of all ties back to me being young and going through an education system that is built towards 4 years of undergrad and then you immediately go into corporate, right? Thinking differently. So one of the biggest challenges I face as a leader, as an entrepreneur, is when, and it's not just me, it's anybody on my team, right, who is visionary, who has taken the non-beaten path or off the beaten path, um, is when they come up with a non-obvious solution to a problem. And it's not coming up with the non-obvious solution, but it's convincing others. The challenge is in convincing others that it is worth the risk in implementing that solution. Right. An example I can give here is when COVID hit. We were 3 years in, 2 years in, and just that March we were having people in every day. We were working, a lot of stuff was getting done, and then immediately, just in a week's time, the whole state shut down. Well, everyone was forced to work from home. Everyone's familiar with it, by this time. Um, this was a big problem for our engineers since they had been working on workstations, powerful workstations in person that they didn't have access to at home. Now, the desktops could also not be locked behind individual accounts. The obvious solution was, okay, implement some sort of remote desktop. Well, what about remote desktop? Do you need to convince anyone about? Like, what? It's such a normal thing to us, and even back then, it's just remote desktop, right? Well, what was controversial was when the team was talking about, okay, how do we let the engineers access their stuff? What solution, what remote solution do we use? They're thinking about paying for something, right? Or relying on Chrome remote desktop, something that gets relayed to Google servers and then comes back down. It's convenient, sure. But as a CTO, as someone who takes information security and, just likes having, I think a company should have as much control over its data as possible. I love the cloud, but I think we'll get into that in a different time. But I wanted to implement a remote desktop using completely open source software because we get to control exactly how that information flows in and out of the office network, right? We didn't have to worry about any company suddenly changing or charging for their business model and then risk us getting stuck in the crossfire. This happens many times. Just now, Google Photos, right? Oh, unlimited free storage, and they did that for 3 years, and suddenly, oh no, sorry, now we have to start charging you. It's like, I don't want that happening to my company. I don't want that happening to any of my team members. It's just a headache for all of us in the end. And so what happened was, so I posed, why not implement all these open source solutions that already exist? And then all the quality issues came. It's like, it won't be as high quality. What about downloading or uploading files? What about the speed? All these are legitimate concerns from the team members, right? I mean, they're not illegitimate at all. So these are all concerns we had to handle within a few days' time. So I told my team, okay, I fully understand what you are worried about, and I've also told you what I'm worried about. Give me one day, and I'll set up a test environment for you all, and we can test everything you are worried about. Let's stress test all of it, right? And if any aspect of it is not good enough, then we will pay for or rely on like another solution. We probably would have gone for a free solution at that point. But now, 2 years later, everyone loves the flexibility of being remote or in person, while the company only needs to deal with one desktop per engineer. But now the engineers can cross pollinate if they need to. And we've also developed our own process for implementing an open source file synchronization without relying on Google Drive. So, I mean, those in IT will understand the value of this, where everything is locally accessible and it's not being relayed through some other server or data center, right? Now you can get into the reliability stuff about that, but it's still a custom solution that is not the obvious solution. It was very non-obvious. Most people had hiccups about it. They had hesitations. Um, but so that long-winded story is really about how, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, you are going to face people doubting you all the time, right? And you have to understand that those concerns or those doubts are legitimate, right? They're coming from people who also have experience in what you're trying to solve or what you're trying to come up with. But then you got to make it your mission to not only prove yourself right, but also to actively try and prove yourself wrong. The whole exercise about Give me one day and I'll set up a test environment for you all, is to see if it fails. Because the faster I set something up and the faster we see it fail, then we know what changes we need to make. At least we'll know where we stand. And then we can iterate upon that faster. You fail fast enough, and eventually you're going to lead to something that, you know, you'll make the right choices down the line that eventually lead to success. And so it gets difficult when there's constant doubt, but you have to understand that,
So you
you
say
know,
that
it's
there's this constant churn and constant,
mhm.
you're experiencing dynamic changes, and you have to think on your feet and
You
try
have to.
and still to keep your composure. So
Yes.
it's like balancing, 20 plates in your hand and still trying to do ballet dancing, right? Something like
Yeah,
that. So I
exactly.
get what
And
you're saying. So yeah, it's so any other challenges that you have faced, Hari?
um as a young entrepreneur, it's the other way. It goes more on the social side of things, where everyone else around you, you know, when you're 23, 24, they're just starting to get jobs. They're getting big salaries. They may post on social media, and you'll feel happy for them, right? But you may start self doubting, which I'm not going to lie and say that that hasn't been an issue, right? I'm not going to say that, oh, I have never had that issue. No, good entrepreneurs never think about that. But good entrepreneurs, they understand that that is how other people chose how to do it. And you have to stay steadfast in your choices and your goals and in your journey, right? Reconciling all my friends, everyone I've known from high school, everyone I've known from elementary school, no one has a startup of their own. No one is doing that. I don't have anybody to rely on other than other entrepreneurs whom I'll meet. But my friends, they all have each other to rely on. I don't really have them to rely on, but as
So it's
a
pretty
friend,
lonely.
it's it's lonely, but I'm not alone
Well
because
said.
I have other like-minded people to rely on, right? But they're not. They'll become my friends later on. They are my friends to some degree, and they'll become closer friends as time goes on. When you look at your cohort, your group, or your batch, like that's it. It can get lonely, but you have to realize that you're not alone at the same time. You have other people that are like-minded, and I mean, you can keep your friends close, and there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to be like, oh, I feel so different or anything like that. You're not that much different. I mean, I don't know how to put this
No, I get what you're
in
saying.
proper, yeah,
It's a different path. It's a different path that not
yeah.
everybody wants to. It is probably postponing your gratification.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get gratification today. You're going to postpone your gratification, and you should be okay with it. You should be okay to
Yeah.
postpone your gratification. So on that, I'm going to come to my last question for the day.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any words of advice or thoughts for youngsters younger than you, of your age, or even contemplating entrepreneurship? What would your advice to them be?
My my advice to younger entrepreneurs or even just people who like solving problems, right? My advice is to realize that you don't have to be a genius. You don't have to have high grades. You don't have to have a crazy high GPA. Now, education is important. You shouldn't be slacking off. But don't let the grades or the numbers define you, right? Even if you study very hard and you learn a lot and you're able to apply it, but you still bomb the exam or something, that's okay. Because in the future, companies now may be looking at, oh, GPA, your grades and all your transcript, but very quickly it's changing to, okay, what have you actually done? Sure, you may have bombed the exam, that doesn't matter, right? But what are the projects you have done? What sort of technical skills or soft skills have you been able to execute on, right? And have you done that or have you not? How much have you done? So I implore anybody who is thinking about entrepreneurship or solving people's problem is learn, not learn as much as you can, but execute more. Do projects. All right, ask people what problems they have, even if it's in the home. I don't know, maybe your kitchen drawer is very unorganized, and instead of going and buying a kitchen organizer, maybe figure out maybe how you can make it differently, and then maybe learn a little bit of 3D modeling. There's free 3D modeling out there for makers, as in like individuals who don't want to pay, and maybe learn about how you can 3D print at virtually no cost to you. You can even CAD on a mobile phone at this point, right? So take on projects, do things around the house, do things, take your school projects to the next level. Don't just go based on the syllabus, right? Go above and beyond on that. It's difficult. The mindset is, I don't know if older people will be cognizant of this meme, but there's this video of Shia LaBeouf, the guy from Transformers, who's just yelling at the screen saying, "Just do it," right? And that has never been more true in in my journey as a young entrepreneur. Is just do it. You're not going to learn unless you fail and keep failing. Failure doesn't mean, no, you're a complete failure. Failure means you know now the next step you need to take to keep going, and that will postpone gratification, that will delay things, and there is a significant risk in it. But you'll be much happier than when, or compared to everyone else who's going and getting, 6-figure salaries at whatever corporate thing there is, and you'll be more excited, you'll be more inspired to do what you want to do, right? And then the money won't matter. All that other stuff doesn't matter, as long, because you're going to end up finding gratification in helping those around you. And the way you get to that is do projects. And if you don't have an idea for what project you can take on because your resources are underprivileged, you have a difficulty accessing the resources, talk to the people, and just start talking to people. Email people like me. Find, I mean, even you see someone working in the garden, and you see them struggling a little bit, go ask them. I mean, that doesn't require internet. That requires having a neighbor. The simplest unit of an economy, right? The simplest unit of any society. Just, hey neighbor, what's wrong, right? You need help with
Excellent.
something, just, and then try to see if you can solve that problem. But you got to be a problem solver for that, and you got to want to do that.
Great. Great. Thank you so much, Hari. It was really fun. It's very different from the kind of conversations I've had so far, and very refreshing. And it's a very different take. And I hope more youngsters like you are inspired to take on problem solving and doing it because it has to be done. Just do it, as you said. So
Yeah,
thank you so much for your time, Hari. I wish you all the very best, and I wish your organization all the very best. And I hope to see you more often on this group
yeah,
and participate actively in this group. This group is meant for people like you and me, irrespective of age or what we are doing. We're all entrepreneurs and leaders who are trying to solve problems together. Thank you for your time, Hari.
yeah. One last thing, Uncle. What I do hope this conversation, this new perspective, challenges those who are older than me and already in leadership positions is, when you hire someone new, don't look at their GPA and don't look at their grades, right? Don't let it, if someone has a good GPA, let it help them. But don't knock someone down because of their GPA or anything like that, and ask them, what have you actually done? And try to understand if they have. I know hiring is a big thing. You need to filter through thousands, but try to do them justice, and you'll figure out that there are a lot of well-qualified people who may not look like it on paper. And I kind of challenge those who are used to the GPA way of doing it, or the filtering, to take me up on that. If they don't want to do it, that's
Awesome.
fine. But yeah,
Awesome.
that's what I hope.
I will keep that in mind. Thank you, Hari. Thank you for your time. All
No
the
problem.
best.
No problem. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on.